So good evening, ladies. This is a power-packed night for you, and I'm going to let Diane introduce something that I think can help you visualize your life a little bit better and open you up on a different level. One of the things that Diane mentioned a little bit ago is that turning this key in your life also turns the key in your recognizing things in other family members, where they handled things a certain way and then you also suffered from that and or did the same behavior. So I just want Diane to share this with you, and then we'll move forward into what this really means, okay?
Okay, so this exercise is called the puzzle. On the day you entered this world, you had many pieces that would one day fit together, sort of like the picture on the front of this puzzle. So on the day you entered this world, you had many pieces that would one day fit together, sort of like the puzzle, the picture on the front of this puzzle. A sweet picture. Though the Lord totally desires we be protected, nurtured, deeply valued, led, and taught, He has put each of us in a flawed world with flawed and inadequate parents. They too came from flawed parents. Due to their short-sightedness and their own camouflaged wounds, we may have been put in harm's way. Depression and anxiety are symptoms of events which can very often be traced back to our formative years. Is it possible that you became a target, or that neglect and or abuse led to this? Good one. Yeah, very effective. Is it possible for you that not only was your life blown apart by neglect or abuse within your home, were you also shattered by sexual abuse? Not only have the delicate pieces of you gone flying, but they were damaged and misshaped, as if the monster had also stomped on them. It's a great visual, isn't it? You sitting on Jesus' lap and then your life just being... Your environment, fear, lack of family communication likely prompted you to remain silent. Now, get on with your life and act like nothing unnatural has ever happened to you. You will never be the beautiful picture God had originally planned for you. But with hard work, encouraged by the Lord, you can find and even reform the damaged pieces. With God's help, you can actually be resurrected to an even more amazing woman. You're all amazing women. We're all amazing women. But we can be resurrected with God's help to even more amazing women. Like the tree. Remember the tree with the knot in it? Unique. Kitty proves this And she wants to be our Moses as we listen. As we listen, apply, and with God's help, dig out the roots of destruction with which we've been living. Depression and anxiety may be a symptom of this. Kitty will tie the puzzle in now with this last workshop's content. This is why it's critical that we read our handouts. Do you want me to pick this up now, Kitty?
Oh, no,
You want me to leave it?
It's a good visual. I think we
Okay,
want
it is
it
a
on
good
while we're.
visual.
This is what the Lord intended for us. And someone or something or circumstances caused our life to be blown apart like that. And this is the beginning of what each of us goes through when that happens to us. We begin to construct things to avoid the pain that has been created. And DNA are multifaceted conditions, but they are definitely involved. That's a beginning of it right there, because we're trying to live in spite of having this event happen to us. Some ways are more obvious than others. Connect the dots to our last workshop, Little Girl Lost, and the tree. In this workshop, I want to raise your awareness about the results that continue to happen. So when you consider the word stronghold, which is what we're going to talk about tonight, because this is the beginning of building strongholds. After we've come out of something that has shattered us, we all shatter in different ways. Some shatter more than others. Some, depending on our temperament, we might come out of it better than others. We may come out of it in a psych ward. It's just all about everyone being an individual and how severe the trauma was and how long it lasted. But think about that word stronghold. I want to show you this picture that I asked my son to draw. It was actually in his late teens. Give an idea of a stronghold, what some people might think of as a stronghold. So what comes to your mind when I say stronghold? Defense. Let's see if I can get these on the board for you. Never can remember if that's a C or an S.
Yes.
Defense and
Fence is spelled with a C. Put up a fence.
stronghold. We're talking about stronghold. It's a defense. And a prison. You could think of it as a prison. Or you could think of it as private and secret. Any ladies coming up with anything? Secrets. Maybe we'll say secrets. Walls.
Thinking something you can't break out of or break into. Like
Okay.
This, impenetrable barrier.
Okay. Would you call that stuck? If you can't break out of it, you're kind of stuck in a place that you don't want to be. We're going to get into the positive or the negative of a stronghold. And a stronghold can be built to protect us, but it can also be built where it hurts us. And that's what I'm saying with the puzzle pieces, that's when you started constructing strongholds to protect you from further damage, further pain. So a stronghold can be either positive or negative. It helps, if it helps you, protects you, or seems to keep you more balanced, then it's a good stronghold, right? There's a key word in there. That's good. I like that. She's going like this. Seems is the key word in there. It seems to keep you balanced. What if you think a thought process or a behavior is helping you, when in reality it's holding you back? Kind of what Diane was saying. What might an example be of that? So something that's holding you back from moving forward. We're going to take a look at some of these in a moment, but I want you to be thinking about what your possible strongholds might be. And they're probably connected to shame or control, because a stronghold is a control to keep us, you know, the buffer that's around us. So I want to tell you one that the Lord helped me to pull down in my life. But first, let me tell you why the stronghold was in place. And obviously, I said that that is why. But if something makes you feel better, makes you feel valued, makes you feel more in control, even loved, important, wanted, it gave me a place to escape from the reality of my life, which gave me none of those feelings. I didn't feel valued, I didn't feel in control, I didn't feel loved, I didn't feel important, and I didn't feel wanted. And I know some of you can pick all of those or some of those. So here's a clue to my stronghold area. Virtually all girls who lack the warmth and love of a father figure grow up craving male attention. We don't like to admit it. Don't necessarily like to admit it. But that's where the shame comes in. You're doing something to make yourself feel better, and it does, but at the same time there's shame connected to it. Whatever it might be. So, for me, and few people will admit this, not very often, but few people will admit that they've employed a fantasy life. So I could go anywhere in my mind, except in the present, just to not be in the present. So I could control my environment, even if only here. Then that could be as real to me, more real to me than reality, and more protected. I could feel wanted, I could feel focused on, I could feel secure. So, fantasies took me out of my reality, took me out of being present. I wasn't in the moment with whatever was going on, I was absent. Have you ever looked in someone's eyes, you're talking to them, and you can see they're not there? Have you ever noticed that? And maybe it isn't so much that you're boring. It could be that they have some reason that they needed to check out and they've gone to their, nowadays they call it their happy place, yes.
I've heard the term disassociation.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Where you're
Yeah.
there but you're not,
absolutely.
you're not plugged in?
Yeah, that's a great word for it, and it's a protective mechanism that we begin to construct after this has happened. So we find ways to pull ourselves together, but they're not necessarily the ways that will work. We're just trying to find something that will take away some of the pain. I could control my internal environment by effectively disappearing into my mind. Anybody here done that? Ah, come on. Thank you. Or you do it and you don't even, it's so much you do it, you don't even recognize you do it. Well, you're going to start to recognize it now, because I pointed it out to you. This particular stronghold for me had been set firmly in place through sexual abuse, through neglect, physical abuse, violence, and alcoholic parents. creatively, and I was using my creativity, I could disappear via the power of my own mind. Get me out of there. And I know some of you have done something similar, and it's okay to mention it here. You don't necessarily want to hold a banner up out in the world, but have you checked out of your surroundings and entered a place constructed by you and for you, to where you are kind of disassociated, detached, so you're not feeling what you would be feeling if you were in your present state? Sounds kind of odd. I can imagine it sounds kind of odd to some of you. Some people would call it getting stuck in your own head. Some call it not being present. But whatever you might call it, I'm hoping to pull that cover off and help you call it what it is, a stronghold. It's a barrier that seems like a friend, your safe place for periods of time. Maybe your stronghold is a place you feel you've earned because of all the suffering you've lived through in your life. And this point, I hope, comforts you. God understands that. He knows exactly why we build a stronghold, to protect ourselves. And in our lack of resourcefulness, we use what resourcefulness we did have to find a way to not be hurt more than we've already been. I used to teach a lesson called calluses and blisters. You know, when you're wearing the wrong shoes long enough, they rub long enough on your feet, eventually you don't feel the pain anymore. But the pain is still under there. You just got to dig under that callus and get down to the part of you that still has feeling, and that's sort of what we're doing here. So he understands that our coping techniques and our survival techniques are in place as a response to our pain. He also understands that they are multifaceted, layered, held together, laced together, not by our desire to escape the pain, but from one trauma, but from many traumas. It isn't just one time. It can be layered upon layered. It gets entwined into our very soul. Likely you can conclude that for such a stronghold to remain in place, it must hold God at bay. That kind of a stronghold is going to protect you from being hurt again. Also must hold God at bay. I hope you found, as I did, the Lord does not come in and start ripping your self-constructed pins out from under you. He's not going to just barge in. He comes by invitation. He knows a stronghold provides escape, shutting up the voices in our heads. A stronghold releases inhibitions. It's a break from our overwhelming reality, even a sense of peace. Do these effects sound like the same effects as an addictive behavior? They are, and it is. A stronghold is an addiction. Our body chemistry changes as we find a stress reliever. We talked about this a little bit last week. Find the stress reliever, whether it's a right or wrong stress reliever. Who wouldn't get addicted to feeling better about themselves if you can do that? If you can control it, who wouldn't get addicted to that? Addictions are symptoms of strongholds. They are not the strongholds. The addiction isn't the stronghold, it's a symptom. Just like depression and anxiety are symptoms. They're not the problem. They are symptoms of strongholds. The Lord is well aware of the stronghold's place and value in our lives. So He's going to be very gentle with you in helping you to recognize them, and when you're willing, deconstruct them, dismantle them. And He's not going to force you to do it. It's a matter of you changing to the place where you recognize it could be better for you. if you let the Lord in. Back to the one I employed, that particular stronghold was not even on his radar when I first became a Christian. That wasn't the first thing the Lord went after as far as getting my attention of what needed to change. It was my self-hate, as you read in Little Girl Lost, Little Girl Found. So if I had to deal with it in God's order, God's time. This was a big deal, but this wasn't as big a deal as that was. So he directs us to the most important thing step by step. That's where it's dangerous for us to decide, okay, I have this problem and I want to solve it. And, it's sort of like we need to take it before the Lord and ask his direction as to which particular thing we work on. Low self-esteem was at the root of my stronghold. And as I said, it wasn't just low self-esteem, it was self-loathing, it was self-hate. Let's ponder the possible components of a stronghold and why it came to be. From what you've heard so far, I want you to list a few ideas in your handout at home, but also we can toss a few out here, just a sentence, not a whole life, but give me something that particularly occurs to you, a few ideas of components to a stronghold. Self-hate, I mentioned. Low self-esteem, I mentioned. And this is where you're protecting yourself. So what in your character are you trying to protect yourself? What about the world are you trying to protect yourself from? Why? Everybody's kind of going, what does she really mean? Well, let me just unpack it a little bit for you. Pain, unresolved, not forgiven, unconsciously active. Pain that's unconsciously active. Beneath the wound, never fully addressed, there is pus, an infection of your soul and your spirit. So those are kind of the things I was aiming for, ideas that occur to you that you have something within you that isn't healthy yet, and you want to uncover that. But it's sort of like having a 5-way bypass operation. You don't want to get to that level of trying to undo everything at one time. This is